Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I will be talking with two survivors of domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I would like to bring to you the stories of two victims and what they had to go through. I have with me Stephanie and Eileen. So ladies, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
The first question I have for you is, how long had you been in the relationship with your abuser?
With my abuser, I was in the relationship 14 years on and off.
Okay, how about you, Eileen?
A little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years. Did either one of you know at the time that you were in a domestic violence relationship?
No.
Not at all.
No.
How about you, Eileen?
I saw some signs, but I overlooked them.
Okay. Can you share some of the abuse that you endured with your abuser?
I've had my glasses torn off my face and thrown across the room. I've had a mop hit me in the back, spit in my face, dining room chairs thrown at me. The list goes on. The sheriffs have been to my home numerous times for peace to try and calm them down or stuff like that, but I had my head banged against the wall and thrown across the bed, slapped in the face 3 times. Yeah. I've
Did
been through a
anybody
lot.
know? Had you told anybody
I-
about what you were going through?
I did share my experiences with a close friend, but she gave me advice and I thought I could change them. And believe me not, you can't change somebody like that.
Wow. Did he have any anger issues, alcohol issues?
I saw the anger in him as he was abusing me, with the occasions that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
He had anger. He would yell and scream, and I would cry, and saying stop didn't help. Didn't listen.
It didn't phase him.
Yeah, nope. It's like he was on a mission, and he was not going to stop.
Would he say anything after the abuse to you?
Yeah, when he slapped me in the face, he looked me in the eyes. As at the time, of course, I was crying and telling him stop. And he said, after he got done slapping me, he said, "That's how we make the women stop crying and screaming, by slapping them in the face."
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. How about you, Stephanie? What did you have to endure?
Before the big thing that happened to me on my abuse, it happened 6 years ago. So that's when the abuse started. He choked me. I felt isolated. He kept me in the house. I was only to go pick up my daughter from school. And that's
So you
it.
had children with him?
Yes, I did. And it was scary, and all I did was just stay inside that house, everything locked up. I only had 1 key, like 2 keys to the house and the gate, but that was it. And
Was that part of the abuse, that you couldn't go anywhere, that you had to stay home?
yes, I didn't know at the time, and this was out of town, so I wasn't where I live, my hometown, because I moved over to where he was at, thinking, oh, we're gonna get married and be a family. But when the abuse started, I didn't know who to go to. I had no family. I wasn't talking to anybody at the time.
Was there anything else that he had done?
Being out of town, living out of town, it was just the strangulation, that he was heavy alcoholic. I was just scared most of the time, and then when I finally left, he followed. Then I got my own place, my little apartment. And then it just went downhill from there. He kept throwing me against the wall. I was pregnant, and I was pregnant at the time, and I was just getting thrown at the wall. A phone hit me and busted my eyebrow. It was just those little things, and I really didn't realize it was like I was getting abused.
You mentioned the big thing. What are you referring to as the big thing?
In 2018, when everything happened, that's when we had broken up. I asked my daughter, is it okay to, because we started arguing, so it started a little bit separating at the beginning of the year, 2018. And then I asked my daughter, does she still want her father at the house? And he said no. I go, okay, that was my sign to finally say it's over and done. Because at that time I was just staying with him for the kids. I wasn't in love with him anymore. I was done. And we had broken up, and I told him, okay, he knew he had his 30 days. I'm not gonna lie, I did have a safety plan. I was communicating with my family, one of my family members, to take care of the girls. I spoke to the landlord, to do the right way to get him out. So I was already working my way around. I even had money saved that he didn't know about. He went out one night, went looking for work or something, house. Me and the girls just got done taking a bath. We had a nice dinner. We cleaned up the kitchen. And my oldest, she goes, Mom, just throw away his knives. I'm like, no, baby, no, just leave him. When he moves, he could take them. There he is. She's like, okay. We were watching a family movie. To this day, we can't even watch that movie. And he came home, he kept taunting me. He wanted to do sexual stuff, and I'm like, no, we're done, it's over with, we're through. And he's still just like, well, you did this to me and this and that. I was like, no, I didn't. He kept following me. He sent the oldest to bed. I had the little one, she was 3 at the time. He kept following me everywhere in the apartment. I'm like, leave me alone, I'm scared. That's all I kept saying, back and forth, I'm scared. And went to the restroom just to calm down, relax, and he kept coming in and out. I'm not gonna hurt you. I was like, you just scratched me, you grabbed me. He goes, I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm like, okay, well then just leave me alone, you're scaring me. That's all I can remember I'm saying over and over. He went to the living room, it just got completely quiet. Completely, like it was just a dead silence. I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? Maybe he passed out. What? Like I was just like, it was that cold, weird feeling. I'm like, okay, I see my baby right there, and because I was ready for her to put her to bed. Next thing I know it, he comes in, he grabs my arm and threw me on the ground in the restroom and started stabbing me in the head.
Stabbing you?
Not just once. I found out at the end it was 7 total.
Wow.
My fingertip got slit open. My bicep got torn. I didn't know the severity. at the time, I was just like, okay, I seen my baby. My oldest came out, yelled at him to stop, and she took off running. He followed her after her. And at the time, I didn't care. I was like, my injuries, I didn't care about my injuries. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket, luckily it was in there. Called 911, told him what happened, told him I got stabbed, who did it, what's the address. It's like, that part's like kind of common sense. Let them know all that information before anything. And they're like, okay. I go, well, I need my daughter. I need to know where she's at. And they're like, oh, wait until police gets here. I was like, I cannot wait. That's where my biggest was my daughter. My daughter was my biggest. Like, I need to find her. My little one kept hiding in and out. And I got up. I went to the front door. I seen my neighbor walk upstairs and I passed out. And I seen my daughter. I asked him, oh, have you seen my daughter? And he goes, we have her. And he goes, and I passed out.
Were you afraid he was going after your daughter?
Yes. That was my biggest fear.
Wow. So you collapsed after you knew both children were safe.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Did your abuser have any issues with drugs or alcohol?
Yes.
With
He was a heavy alcoholic. He'd do drugs. He was hiding alcohol in the house. I didn't even know. Because I was working. All I did was work. He didn't work.
Okay. Wow. For both of you, your abusers, let me back up. Stephanie, had you told people as to what was going on? You said some of your family members knew. Was there anybody else?
Not really. None of my family members really knew.
Oh, you didn't tell your family
I
members?
didn't know.
Wow. Okay. How about both for you guys in your experiencing this? Was there a criminal case attached to anything? Did you feel that your abusers received the justice that you wanted?
No.
Why do you say no?
Because going through court was a long process. The steps weren't taken right to me. The preliminary wasn't on there.
Explain the preliminary.
Where all the evidence was going to be brought to him, in front of the judge, and the DA was going to set me aside where I didn't have to speak on the stand, but the detective was going to speak for me.
Okay.
But none of that happened, and having meetings with the DA, thinking he was going to get more years and this and that, like thinking all these things, and at the end he didn't get enough.
You felt he didn't get enough.
Mm-hmm.
So with everything that went through the court system, he went to prison?
Yes.
And do you have any idea as to when he's due out?
Yes. In 13 years from now.
13 years. And your children, how old would they be when he gets out of prison?
Over 20 years old.
Over 20. Gotcha. How about you, Eileen? Did your case end up going through the court system?
Yes, it did. He got a felony and probation, and he had to pay my therapist appointments that I desperately needed after the abuse
Restitution
I went
for
through.
that.
Yeah, and he has to pay for it, my therapy appointments. And he had to go to domestic violence classes.
The
and,
Batter Stream program.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and that's what he got. I feel that he should have had to go to AA meetings because he is an alcoholic. He's an everyday drinker. He drinks like when it starts getting dark till sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Was that made a probation condition?
I would have thought so, but they do have, although they do have surprise visits
Mm-hmm.
at his home any time of any day to see if there's any guns or anything in his property, and if they see any signs of empty cans of alcohol. And that's the only thing that had to do with his drinking problem, was to check and see if there's any signs of alcohol.
Right.
So instead of something more harder, like classes or alcohol testing,
Mm-hmm.
but no, just surprise visits.
During this time, has he left you alone?
No, he's texted me a little bit ago, a couple of months ago. He texted me, and actually he texted me 2 times in a row on the same day, and I took my cell phone and my restraining order to the sheriff's. They took a picture of the restraining order and the text messages. They did what they had to do with it, then they sent it to the DA, and the DA shot it down. So I don't know what, that's a catch-22. What's a restraining order for? And the evidence is right there on my text, on my phone.
So you have, from the criminal case, would be a criminal protective order?
Yes, I have 2 restraining orders.
So you also have a civil
Civil.
restraining order at a civil court. How about you, Stephanie? Do you have?
I have both.
You
It
have
took a
both also.
while at the beginning because at first, I believe the criminal didn't have the girls' names on it.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
So we had to
Mhm.
keep fighting it and making sure those girls' names were on them.
So they're
Good.
protected.
So they're protected.
And then you also
Civil-
have a civil one.
correct.
And the girls' names are on that.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And it's hard to keep those restraining orders to schools and everything
Yeah.
to make sure they have them.
So the whole idea for a restraining order is to keep this person away from you. From what I'm hearing from you, Eileen, is that he was still bothering you, but you were reporting it and nothing was being done?
Right. What a letdown.
Mm.
So how can we correct that?
I think that the law should not sweep things under the rug like this. I mean, who knows, he in his drunkenness might just, jump the fence and come on over to my property.
Mhm.
And that's pretty scary. It is. I look over to my shoulder wherever I go, a restaurant,
That's
whatever.
horrible.
I'm
Fearful.
watching.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Every time I go out and in public, I look around.
My fear is I was at my job for over 5 years, And when I went back to work after everything, I was fully recovered. I had a fake name. Just so if he sent somebody, like he did before, he did send somebody, I was under a fake name.
Was that something that you worked out with your employer?
I was speaking to my advocate at a DV group, a domestic violence group, and I wasn't feeling comfortable. I mean, I was observing everything for a little bit, all the time at work, and I wasn't feeling safe. And when my advocate at group mentioned it, and so then the following day I went to work and I spoke to them and they're like, well, what name do you want? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. But they just gave me whatever name badge was there and I just put it over mine. So my name was different to the public, but my employers, my coworkers knew my name.
Right.
But I was still scared. I was still scared.
Did you work it out with your employer that should somebody come in and ask for you that you could go in the back?
Yes, so they put me in the back, which I've been wanting to work in that department for the longest. So luckily I let my coworkers know. My coworker, one of them was like, hey, if you feel unsafe and you're with the customer, write me a note real quick and I'll take care of it. And you just go back there because the doors to the back were right there next to us. So
That's great. Like they support you and help you.
So you guys both went through a lot in your domestic violence situations. What advice would you want to give to a victim who's watching us today? What would you like to say to them?
in my situation, if you have children, don't stay with the abuser for the children. I mean, look for your support, look for an outlet of something, someone. There are resources out there that, I mean, when the police came to my house the first time for domestic disturbance, I wish the police had victim services card with them. Since it was domestic disturbance, they should have been like, oh, contact this person, so-and-so, but they didn't. So I didn't even know at the time. I mean, if they did do that at that time,
Yeah.
I would have been better.
The card from way back. Yeah.
I didn't know about victim services. I didn't know
neither
all of
did
this. I was just so like, what? Like, I wish we knew, and I'm glad I know now.
About you, Eileen, what advice would you give a victim of domestic violence?
I would say to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Make a plan, stick to it, and have resources available for plan A, B, and C.
Oh, more than one plan.
Oh,
Good idea.
yeah. And I think that domestic violence there should be more awareness brought out in public, so women like us could see, a sign on a billboard or flyers, things to bring it to our attention that there is help out there for us. It needs to be brought out more.
Since you both have experienced domestic violence, have you come into contact with people that have also been victims?
Yes.
I have 2 friends.
Is it more, do you think more is going out there than what we're hearing about?
Yes.
Yes.
What makes you feel that?
It's just, you could tell in somebody that they don't want to be open, like.
That it's okay to share.
Right.
It's okay to share. It's okay to, invite friends over that are in the same predicament as you and just have a chit chat. And let them know that you support them, they support you, and whenever you need to talk, your friends are there. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, if you don't have the friends to talk to, you've got to look for other sources. And yeah, I mean, if there could be to bring out the awareness more, if there could just be commercials on TV. I mean, that's really
Right, that's
a big eye opener. Commercials on TV.
You could.
I mean,
there's always on the
everybody
news.
watches TV.
Yeah, there's always at least on the news
Yeah,
one a day
on
about
cable.
domestic violence.
On cable, at least, you know, a lot of the cable channels, they have commercials, some of them, and
So
something.
do you think that well, we know domestic violence is happening,
Correct.
and we know it happens behind closed doors.
Oh, that's true.
Majority of the time, it's only the victim and the perpetrator, because usually there's no evidence. We get that. But it's so embarrassing. I mean, were you embarrassed knowing there was domestic violence going on and you didn't want anybody to know?
Now I don't, before, yeah, I was kind of, you know,
Scared.
tight-lipped about it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, let's just say I have a support service dog for anxiety, and I'll go into a restaurant. They say, well, do you have paperwork or a license for your dog? And I said, yeah, I do. I says, here it is. I go, do you want, I have a little chain that goes on her collar, and I said, this is it. I said, do you want to see her paperwork? I says, I'm a victim of spousal abuse. I straight up let them know.
I thought they weren't allowed to ask you. in
Oh, I
public.
know, huh? But they do. I have. Yeah, and a sandwich place. I'm not going to say the name, but they told me to leave with my dog, and I
That's
said,
not-
well, wait, I have her license here, and I was like, and you know, now that I thought about it, I should have said, hey, wait a minute. Do you want to hear my story? I'm a victim of spousal abuse. There was customers in there. I could have, you know.
No shame in the game
I
anymore.
I introduced
promise.
myself, and there's conversations, and I say I'm a victim of spousal abuse. I'm a survivor.
That's right, you're a survivor.
I know. I mean, I go to groups. I go to domestic violence group. That helped me, like in my recovery, and not to be hiding my story. But it took a long time. And I also go to like brain injury support group, traumatic brain injury support group from Fresno Community Hospital, and because I had a brain injury because I got stabbed in the head, and hearing their stories or their memory, they forget everything.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like, I want to forget everything like that's happened to me, that night, because for a while, every first of the month, that month, March, I couldn't stand that date, especially at that time.
Mm.
It kept bringing me back memories, and I'm, oh no, I can't. But now I'm okay, I'm way better. But that group helped me out because it made me realize I'm not normal. I'm no longer normal. I have a disability that's unseen.
I had many nightmares about the incident.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Mhm.
many nights at first, the dreams of the incident. They would come to me in dreams, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And a lot of times I was just afraid to go to sleep because I didn't want to
Right.
have the dreams.
Right, insomnia.
And
Insomnia was
oh yeah.
horrible.
My doctor gave me medication for insomnia, but
My doctor.
I don't want to take it. I don't want to rely on it.
My doctor was treating me for memory loss, like Alzheimer's patient. He goes,
Oh.
I'm treating you like a 91-year-old patient with the memory loss pills.
Really? Did it help?
And then learning in the TBI group, it did. I'm
Yeah.
still on it.
Oh, good.
But learning in the TBI group, it's like the first 4 or 5 years of the injury, the brain injury, you're prone to seizures.
Oh my goodness.
I learn so much. I love that group. I learned so much. My abuse, I mean, my injuries is different from theirs. There's this car accidents, there's this
Mhm.
sports related, all this other things,
Mhm.
but we're all
Yeah.
involved the brain.
The brain. Yeah.
We all have something in common.
Well, a
Wow.
question I have to ask as you guys talk about that is, did you truly love your abuser?
At first I did.
At first, yep.
And it slowly disappeared.
Mhm. And I stayed with him just for the kids. Even though there was no more love, I was done, I was tired.
Yeah, it's draining.
Mhm.
It's draining. It sucks the energy right out of you.
Well, you talk
Yeah.
about Eileen having a support dog, and you were talking about the nightmares. Do you still have those?
No, not very much. I think I've had a few, maybe once every month or skip a month, but not as much. I was having them every night,
I was the same way.
every single night.
Every sound, it just
Yeah.
was
When
scary.
you talk about every sound, what would happen?
Like I'm on alert.
Yeah.
I'm on so alert.
Mhm.
Do you live in the same home where the abuse took place?
Yes.
I do, yeah. Me too.
Is that hard?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I can't go in that restroom.
The restroom.
That's where everything happened. I had it locked for a while. I had to open it for inspections,
Oh.
but I couldn't even do that. And
Did
when-
you have 2 bathrooms
yeah,
to back up?
yeah, I had 2 bathrooms, so that was a plus. And
Yeah. Mm.
but when my daughter was finally like, "Hey, mom, can I use the restroom now?" Because she's older. I'm like, okay, because she wants to get ready and everything. I'm like, okay. I go, but you're gonna clean it up because I cannot do it.
Mhm.
Wow.
And when I went in there one time, I don't remember just to clean up or do something, I seen a little bit of blood splatter still.
Mm.
Do either one of you suffer from anxiety?
Yes.
Depression? Does that kind of
Yes.
come and go?
And PTSD,
PTSD.
Yes.
really bad.
I do too, yeah.
Were there any other changes in your life that you had to make because of this crime being committed on you?
Yes.
What were some other things?
My safety.
Your safety.
I had to make sure I had safety plans at every job I'm at. Make sure my kids are protected.
Okay.
Who to call in emergency. What else? I'm learning about bad relationships, some good relationships, to differ, and like, yeah.
How about you, Eileen?
I've had to learn to get out more and socialize, and because I was not able to be
You were
Myself.
Oh, that's true.
before when I was with him.
That's true.
I really, literally, I was somebody else then.
Correct.
I wasn't the real me. I was outgoing and talked to everybody.
So you
I-
gave up
Our
parts
lives.
of
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
for this relationship.
Our true self was gone.
And he would tell me, because I don't know how I changed. He's all like, this isn't you. This is a different person. I'm like, this is me for the whole time. Maybe because back then when we first met, I would drink. We'll drink together. But now I don't. I mean, but still, this is me.
Mhm.
He would notice, oh, you're losing weight. What's going on? And this and that. I'm like, oh, I changed my plans of eating because of work. And I go, that's it.
So did your abuser accuse you of seeing somebody else?
Yes. And yet it was the abuser. Seeing
Oh, he
somebody-
was doing it. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I even showed, he let me borrow, my phone broke at work, so I borrowed one of his, because he didn't need it. He's like, oh, here's this one, you can use this. Okay. I looked in his messages and I seen them. And I showed one of my friends at work at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, like, and I didn't know how to confront him.
How are both of you dealing with trust issues? Is that difficult?
It is.
I'm kind of trustworthy, kind of skittish about meeting men. Yeah, I mean, is this one
Real?
safe?
I know, it's a safe word.
You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like keeps me alert more. Yeah.
Do you find that you're comparing this new person to your ex?
No, not comparing.
No,
It's more
just,
being
there's me.
aware of that behavior.
Gotcha.
If I see a behavior,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, because I'm in a current relationship, oh my gosh, and it's hard. It's hard being in a healthy relationship. I learned that. And it's like, but it gets easy after a while. Because now that we know what to work on, we know how to communicate. That's a big thing. With the abuser, you don't communicate, you don't trust, there's no respect, there's
None.
nothing. And now with being in a new relationship, we talk about how we want the relationship and how we're going to do it to work. And we do everything equally.
Wow.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What do you do for self-care? What do you do for you?
And get a manicure, pedicure.
That's true.
Also, you're
I-
splurging on yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Well, because in an abusive relationship, you weren't allowed to buy clothes for yourself
Yeah.
or do anything. It was always about the abuser or for the
Uh-huh.
kids.
Their needs, what they want,
Mhm.
what they don't want to sacrifice anything that
Right.
they want, you know.
The
and,
money goes to his alcohol,
yeah.
but not clothes for work or for myself. All my wardrobe was uniform for work.
Ah.
And then when we do go out, why don't you wear something nice? I was like, what is there? I don't have anything.
Well, ladies,
Yeah.
I would like to once again thank you for joining me here today. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I do want to put out that victim services. If you find yourself in an abusive relationship, please call us. Madera office number 661-1000. Our Eastern Madera Oakhurst office 658-8588. Our Chowchilla office, the number is 201-9353. And our hotline number 24/7. You could always get somebody on the crisis line is 1-800-855-8989. Thank you.